Hi, I'm Brenda Ellis, author of Artistic Pursuits, an art curriculum for preschool through high school. So what happens when you don't like something about your drawing? Well, what has happened is your brain has taken you there. It's like your brain taking you to the grocery store when you intended to drive to your friend's house. So what you have to do, you have to stop, you have to evaluate where you are, and then you have to plan a new path. Now in art, that means that you probably want to use your eraser. Evaluate your lines, decide what part you don't like. Now never just crumple up your paper and throw it aside, because you have valuable lines on that piece of paper. You have lines that tell you where you're going with your art. So just erase the parts that you don't like, because we're going to change those. In fact, the lines that you have on there that you don't like are telling you something. They're telling you where to put the next lines. So I often don't start with erasing, but I leave the lines on there and then I'll draw the line where I want it to go. Now, what am I really looking for? I'm looking for the directions. Maybe a line is tilted to the left too far and it needs to go more to the right. Or I'm looking for sizes. Maybe I've drawn the head way too big for the rest of the body. Or I might be looking for changes in length. So maybe one arm is too long, the table isn't wide enough. You're looking at the outside edges, remember? So as you're looking at those edges, you want to evaluate your line and see if it needs some changes. So, like I said, don't erase the whole thing. You often don't need to start over, but just look at what you don't like. When children don't like their picture, they often are very discouraged. And I feel just the opposite way. I always tell my students, you know what? I am so proud of you, because the reason you don't like what you see on the page is because you are really seeing that object in front of you. You're seeing that it's different than the lines on the paper. And seeing is the first step to making great art. So I am proud of anyone who can see that what they have on paper doesn't quite line up with the object. No big deal. Just redraw, erase, use your eraser whenever you want to, and you are going to get that object on paper closer and closer to what you see. Today we revisit our first lesson of the summer. It's time to pick that summer fruit and make some art. When we place objects in front of us, we can arrange the objects in many ways. One thing that might happen is that one object covers part of another object, and we call this overlap. Let's look at an example. You are looking at the objects from a different point of view than I am, and that's good because you can see how one of these apples sits further back than the other. From my point of view, the apple sits in front or covers up part of the apple behind. Let's draw one of these overlapping pairs of fruit. I draw the apple up front. Now I draw the apple behind. Sometimes the apple behind doesn't appear correct because the lines don't connect. When we pretend that we can see the apple behind and draw through the closer apple, we can make our lines for the second apple make more sense. I draw through the front apple. When I see that the lines make sense, then I erase that line. I check the distance between the two front apples. I draw the second apple, and again, I check distances between the apples. I see overlap, so I draw through the front apple. This is overlap. Drawing through helps us with lines like the top of a table as well. Even if you don't actually make a line, draw through with your mind, and you'll line up those marks just right every time. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed drawing from observation and using overlap in your drawing. Next week concludes our drawing series for summer 2020. Don't miss it. I'll see you next week.